Can you imagine what it would feel like to be completely debt free? To have more freedom, more money, less stress, so that you don't have to worry about how you're going to pay for your mortgage, your rent, food. Well, these are all things that I've personally experienced. And let me tell you that they're embarrassing and horrible. They say money can't buy you happiness, but I've got to say, I'm far happier when I know all my bills and expenses are covered for the month. When I know the roof over my head isn't going anywhere, and I know that I can dictate my own decisions and opportunities, and I'm not controlled by my finances, or lack of. One of the first wealth building principles is to become debt free, or ideally, don't get into debt in the first place. Because when you don't have any debt, guess what you do have? You have money. You can't build wealth if the majority of your income is wasted on paying back extortionately high interest rates on credit cards, loans, and God knows what else. And trust me, I've been there. At one point, I was about £10,000 worth in debt, mainly consisting of credit cards and loans. Throw into the equation that I had a gambling addiction and a fairly low paid job, you could say I was in quite a hole. So if you're sat there watching this and you're in a similar position yourself, you feel like you're drowning in debt and you're in a hole you just can't get out of, or perhaps you know someone else who is, I want you to know that I know exactly how you feel. But don't worry, because I managed to get myself out of it. And I know that using the 7 steps that I've got lined up in this video, you can too. So with that being said, here are the 7 ways that help me become completely debt-free. Number 1, stop burying your head in the sand. The first step in paying off your debt, or actually rectifying any problem, is admitting you've got a problem in the first place. And the thing about being in debt is, it's embarrassing. You almost feel like you failed at life. But actually, did you know that almost 27 million people in the UK alone are in debt, with almost 5 million owing over £10,000 in credit cards and loans? So statistically, being in debt is actually quite common. However, it's essential that you don't give up and just remain another statistic. So stop burying your head in the sand, be honest with yourself, and admit that you've got a problem that needs rectifying. Number 2 is mindset over money. In most cases, being in debt isn't so much a money problem as it is a mindset problem. In my opinion, the number 1 reason why so many people end up in debt is because they make stupid financial decisions. They don't live within their means, and they're easily influenced by their friends and the environment around them. I want you to realise that you're probably in debt because of your poor financial decisions, not because you have a lack of money. Number 3 is organise your finances. A lot of people put this bit off because, as I said earlier, being in debt is just embarrassing. And in most cases, you probably actually owe more than you think you do. However, before you start to pay off any debt at all, it's essential you know how much you owe and who you owe to. So I did this by creating a simple Excel spreadsheet of all of my finances that included my income, my outgoings, and any other expenses that I had. I then separated my outgoings into an essential and non-essential list. So for example, things like food and rent would be the highest priority, and things like my Netflix subscription would be the lowest priority. And that is, of course, unless the new series of Ozark comes out, which in that case, that is the highest priority. Just kidding. I then made a list of all of my debts and organised them from lowest debt to highest debt, how much I owed for each one, what the interest rate was, and what the minimum payment was. Now, there's a lot of contrasting opinions out there as to what the best approach is to start tackling debt, and in particular credit card debt. At one stage, I think I had about 5 credit cards, ranging from £300 to £3,000. And it's very easy to feel overwhelmed and just a bit lost, really, in terms of what the best approach is in order to start paying off your debt. But luckily, I'm going to help you out. So number 4 is debt avalanche versus debt snowball. And you're probably thinking, what on earth is he talking about? But let me explain. You see, like anything, whether you're trying to lose a bit of weight and get fitter, cook a delicious meal, or perhaps even try and assemble a piece of IKEA furniture, and we all know how frustrating that can be, having a method, a plan, instructions to follow will usually always deliver better results than if you try and do something without any guidance or help. And paying off debt is no different. So there's 2 methods that you can follow. So the first one is the debt avalanche method. And this involves making minimum payments on all of your debts and then using any remaining money you have to pay off the debt with the highest interest rate. So this is usually your biggest credit card. This is the method that makes the most mathematical sense, because once you've paid off your highest interest rate or biggest credit card, you'll then have more money to throw at your other debts. And number 2 is the debt snowball method. And again, this involves paying all of your debts with the minimum payments, except this time, instead of focusing on the debt with the highest interest rate, you're going to be paying off the smallest debts first before you move on to the highest debts. Now, as I said before, there are many contrasting views as to which method is the most effective in terms of paying off debt. Because surely it would make more sense to use the debt avalanche method, because it makes more sense mathematically and it's going to take you a shorter amount of time to clear your debt. But let me tell you why I think that the debt snowball method is the better choice. Well, firstly, I used it and I wouldn't recommend it to you if it didn't work for me. And secondly, do you remember what I said earlier about being in debt isn't so much a money problem as it is a mindset problem? Humans are emotional creatures by habit. And the reason you're probably in debt is because you've made some poor financial decisions, which, guess what, is almost always governed by our emotions. I remember so many times where I would buy stuff I couldn't afford, such as expensive clothes or watches, to impress people who I didn't even know, and for the most part to cheer myself up a bit. And this all comes down to my emotional control, or rather lack of. So the reason why the debt snowball method works so well, in my opinion, is because you feel like you're making progress so much quicker. I started the debt snowball method off by paying off my £300 credit card, even though I still had a £3,000 one that I was paying so much interest for. But for me, that just worked. And I can't tell you how good it feels that once you've paid off that credit card, cut it up and throw it away, honestly, you will feel so much better. You'll be so much more motivated to start paying off your other ones, and you won't feel so mentally and emotionally drained. And as I'm sure you all know, as humans, we all enjoy instant gratification. And that's essentially what the debt snowball method is all about. Number 5 is set yourself a budget and be disciplined. Now, obviously, this one goes without saying because, the less money you spend, the more money you'll have to start tackling your debt. And when I was paying off my debt, I set myself a strict budget of about £50 a week. And any money that I didn't spend, I could then carry over to the next week. And also, I learned to say no more and be strict and disciplined, because we're very much influenced by our surroundings and our environments. So if you've got friends who are bad influences on you or can be bad influences on you, and they ask you to go out for just a few drinks, please just say no, because remember, you can't afford it. And I know this might sound boring to you. It did to me once upon a time. And you might have the YOLO mantra, you only live once. But the sooner you start making these types of sacrifices, the sooner you'll be debt free, and the sooner you can start enjoying the fruits of your labour. And as the great Dave Ramsey says, the only time you're going to see an inside of a restaurant is if you work there. So number 6 is to use cash over card. Now this one is very much just my opinion. You might find it more useful to use your card. But one thing I found really helpful when I was trying to pay off my debt was to use cash only for things like food and any other expenses I had during the week. So what I would do is I'd set myself a budget of about £50. I would draw out the cash on a Monday, and that was my budget for the entire week. And any cash that I had left over, so if I didn't go over my budget, say even by like a few pounds, I would then add that to the following week. You see, growing up, I don't think I ever really truly appreciated or valued money as much as I should have done. And I don't know about you, but I can quite easily go into a store and spend £100 on new items of clothing using my card. But when it comes to paying for those same items with cash, I'm a lot more unwilling. And in fact, this might be related to what is known as the pain of paying concept, as discussed in the Journal of Electronic Commerce Research and Applications. The pain of paying idea suggests that when purchasing something with cash, the consumer will experience an immediate pain as they're parting with their money. Essentially, the less transparent the payment is, the less painful it is to pay. And again, this is just what worked for me. It might not work for you. But having said that, I strongly urge you to try it out. And finally, number 7, increase your income. So when I was in debt, I would earn extra money by searching for free items on things like Gumtree, or if you're in the US, Craigslist. I mean, there's literally a section that says free, and people give away all kinds of things from TVs to wardrobes to cupboards, anything like that. And with a bit of TLC, you can probably sell these on for a tidy bit of profit. And another thing you can do, which is exactly what I did, is download the Amazon Seller app. And that's because they have their own barcode within the app. So what I used to do is go around local charity shops, or I think thrift shops they're called in America, and you can scan items that you think might be of value. And once you scan them, it will tell you exactly what they're being sold for on Amazon. And it might take you a bit of time to find anything of value, but if you spend enough time at it, you can usually find a few things that will make you a tidy profit. And finally, if you visit my website, lifestylerevamp.com, I've actually written a blog post called 30 Side Hustle Ideas for an Extra Income in 2020. And yes, I'm not lying, that's a massive 30 different ways how you can generate an income right now. And the greatest thing is, most of these can be done from the comfort of your own home. And I'll drop a link to that blog post in the description below, somewhere in the description. So to summarize, number 1, stop burying your head in the sand. Number 2, it's mindset over money. Number 3, organize your finances. Know how much you owe and who you owe to. Number 4, debt avalanche or debt snowball. The choice is yours, but I recommend the debt snowball method. Number 5, set yourself a budget and be disciplined. Say no to silly invitations about going out and having a few drinks, and stop buying stuff you can't afford. Number 6, use cash over card. And finally, number 7, increase your income. So there you have it. That's 7 ways that you can use to get out of debt and finally start living. So if you enjoyed that video, guys, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and a like. You can subscribe right there, or there, or there, or there. And please join my Facebook group, Lifestyle Revamp. I'll drop a link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and see you all very soon in the next video.